morning. Good
And
morning, Nadine. How are you?
I am fantastic, Cinder. Good morning.
I am so excited. I'm so thrilled, dear friend, and honored that you've taken a few minutes to come on to talk with us today about the things that you do so well, and that's caregiving. I talk about you often. I follow you, reference you, learn from you. Even this morning, you have poured into me already. But the excitement for today and what we're looking forward to is the Savvy Caregivers Super Senior Fest, November the 2nd. It's going to take place in Gretna, New Orleans, Gretna, 475 Franklin Avenue. And you're going to be our guest speaker there, where you are going to do what you do so well, and that's pour into the community about caregiving. We're excited.
Mm.
We're excited.
Oh,
We're thrilled. And you're a daughter of the city.
yes, yes,
You're
I
a daughter of
am.
the city. Tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about you.
So,
And
Cinder,
tell us about, I'm going to give this over to you, this segment, because I want you to tell us about you. Most people probably know you, but then also talk about what you're going to talk about on Saturday, November 2nd.
okay. Well, Cinder, thank you. Thank you for having me as your guest. Thank you for all that you do and the incredible transformations that I've witnessed since you retired
Oh my
with
gosh.
the work and the impact that you are making on the community. So when you said there was a Savvy Caregiver conference happening in New Orleans, it's like, well, I'll be home. I'll make sure I'm home that weekend because I want to be there. Yes, I am a proud daughter of the city. Born and raised 7 Ward St. Bernard,
All
McDonough
right.
35 high school graduate, and University of New Orleans was
Wonderful.
my alma mater. So I'm excited. I'm excited for Savvy Caregivers. I'm excited
Thank you.
for the just for the rich blessings and just the education and information, the resources that are going to be available to caregivers who show
Yes.
up on
Mm,
Saturday the 2nd. So I'm honored, I'm excited, and
thank
I'm
you.
coming home. So
Coming
I can't be
home.
anything but excited. And I get to see my daddy, my 94-year-old daddy,
Yes, yes.
who I love immensely and who is defying all odds, 18 months on hospice, and he is just not having any of it. And he's still
Wow.
getting out. He's still vital, and I'm so grateful. That is nothing but a
What a
blessing.
blessing. What a
That's what
blessing.
he would tell you. That's all. He would tell you that that was a blessing. So, in coming home, I get to share and pour into caregivers. We were talking earlier, Cinder, and I was telling you I've been doing this work for 16 years professionally,
Hmm.
but prior to that, I spent 15 years as the primary caregiver to my mother. My background, when we go way back, my background is in public health. And so when I got the call from my mother's neurologist to say it's a pituitary brain tumor, everything changed. But I knew I had an advantage because I grew up in public health.
Yeah.
That was my background. So I knew how to navigate the system. I knew
Hmm.
that I had to be an advocate for my mother, right? And
Yes.
that 15-year journey was circuitous, it was hazardous, it was crazy, it was all of the ups and downs, all of the uh gosh, one thing after another. It was tumultuous at times,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
But I had a support system and I had the education that I needed to have. So when I heard no, I was like,
Wow.
okay, no didn't bother me, right?
Right.
No was the
Yes.
default. I understood that.
Right.
And once my journey with my mom ended after 15 years, that journey ended. My mother transitioned, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get my life back now. I get
Hmm.
to do what I want to do. And you know how it is. You make plans, and God laughs,
He
right?
laughs. Yes.
I'm sure when you retired last year, you were thinking, hey,
Yes. Yes.
right?
No.
But when God has a plan for you and a purpose for your life, even when you don't know what that is, but when
Hmm.
when He presents it to you. And so for me, it was the recognition that my mother's journey and my caring for her which I still say is the honor of my life. And I say that even through the exhaustion, I say it through the depletion, I say it through all of the perceived deficits that I may have experienced as a result of 24/7 caregiving, right?
Yes.
It
Uh-huh.
still was the honor of my life to take care of my mama because my mama took real good care of me. And it was
Yes.
my honor to be able to give back and to provide for her. But there were
Yes.
things that I knew because of my background. I knew how
Yes.
to work the system, and I knew that first of all, I wasn't caregiving by myself. I had my highest source. My God was right there with me.
Oh,
And
yes.
I had to remember that because some days we forget, right?
Forget.
Some days we get into our humanness and we forget that we are not here alone. We're not
Right.
here to do this alone. And what our savvy caregivers are going to learn on the second is that just like it takes a village to take care of a child, it takes a village to take care of anybody that you are caregiving for, whether
Wow.
it's elder, whether it's a special needs loved one, a child. It doesn't matter who you're taking care of. It needs to be done in community. And I
Right.
talk about gumbo all the time. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
have a book, Tears and Prayers in My Gumbo. And
Yes.
people always ask, what does gumbo have to do with caregiving? And I love being home because when I talk about gumbo, people understand,
They
right?
understand. Yeah, we
We
understand.
understand. It's first of all, all of the ingredients that it takes to make a great pot of gumbo, right?
Yeah.
And the
Yes.
older we get, the more we realize we need more prep time. We don't need to do everything in one day. We need
Yes.
to pace ourselves. They have one day for cutting
Mhm.
and chopping the veggies. Have
Yeah.
another day for peeling and deveining the shrimp.
Oh, that's
Have another,
good.
right?
Yeah.
Right? And
Yes.
so we know that it's such a joyous occasion when we can bring our loved ones together in that kitchen and make up that gumbo, right?
Yes.
We could do it by ourselves, but oh my gosh, we have such a riotous time when we do it in community. And so
Yes.
just like we can make gumbo by ourselves, we can take care of somebody by ourselves. We can
Yeah.
do it. But isn't it so much better when we got somebody handling and doing the chopping over here, somebody doing the peeling over there, especially if we don't do
Yes.
it for one day, right?
Right.
You know? And so I use that analogy, the gumbo analogy, all the time because, we put it together. And sometimes, especially for folks who don't really know what they're doing when they're trying to make that
Mm-hmm.
gumbo hot mess. Yes,
Right.
that gumbo is a hot mess, but you put it together and it starts to simmer. And over time, what's a hot mess becomes this cacophony of incredible flavors and aromas, and it's just on point and it's amazing, right?
Yes.
And
Right.
yeah, and the caregiving journey is that way as well. When you get the support that you need, there is nothing that soothes your soul more than knowing that you are caring for yourself first and foremost and
Right.
taking care of your loved one.
Absolutely. That's awesome. That's awesome. We're excited and we can't wait. And I want you to talk a little bit more about the tears. You have the tears in my gumbo and then
Yes,
the prayers in my gumbo. Can you talk a
yes,
little bit more about because these books will be there for the
yes,
caregivers to receive on that
yes.
particular day, the day
We are
of the
claiming that.
event.
Yes.
They'll be there.
Absolutely.
And as you speak to it at the event, they'll be able to reference in their books. It's going to be a
Yes,
wonderful training and educational session that we're
yes.
looking forward to. So talk a little bit more about the tears in the gumbo versus the prayers
Okay.
in the gumbo.
Okay, so Tears in My Gumbo is the first book in the Gumbo, the Caregivers Gumbo series. So I always tell people that this caregiving journey chose me. I didn't choose it. Believe me, I was trained. I remember being 7 years old and my mama said, if anything ever happened to me, you're going to take care of me. And I was like, of course I'm going to take care of you, mama. So I was trained early on. I knew that I would take care of my mama. This would be my joy and my honor to do so when the time came. And so that was always understood. Always
Mhm,
understood. Now,
mhm.
I'm the oldest daughter, so we all know that there's some implications there. But the love in my family and the love from my mother, Elizabeth Vivian Catherine St. Cyr Roberts, oh, yeah, baby. Nadine was going to take care of her mama. But what I didn't know was with all the complexities associated with her illness, there was one thing after another. We went from the tumor. She suffered a massive stroke. We dealt with hypertension. She was diagnosed with Parkinson's. I mean, it was a hot mess. And somehow my mother never manifested physically what she was dealing with. And
Okay.
so that was a saving grace for me. That was really important for me. My mama happened to be a really beautiful woman, and y'all
Hmm.
know we you know how we feel about us and how we take
Right.
care of ourselves, how we
Correct.
present ourselves. My mother was that woman, and God blessed us so that she went through all of that, but she wasn't debilitated by it. Even when she
Wonderful.
had the stroke, we were able to recover and recuperate. So Tears in My Gumbo shares a bit about that story, and I'll show a picture of Tears in My Gumbo right
Beautiful.
here.
Beautiful.
This book captures a bit of my story, but really more of what happened after my mom transitioned and I began supporting other families. I
Okay.
launched the Caregivers Guardian, which was the business that I launched as part of my mother's legacy. My
Okay.
mother's been gone 16 years, Cinder, and I get to talk about my mama every single day. That is
How
nothing but
wonderful that is. That's
it
wonderful.
is
Oh,
so
yes.
wonderful, right?
That's a gift
Her
in itself.
legacy,
Hmm.
yes, her legacy lives on. And in Tears in My Gumbo, I developed a concept called the five steps of conscious caregiving. And what we'll talk about on the second, we'll learn those five steps of conscious caregiving. You see, it's really important that you understand what this caregiving journey is about. The more you understand, the more equipped you are to deal and to handle it. The more you understand that the most important care that you will ever provide is your own self care. That
Wow.
no matter what the need and
Yes.
demands are, you must first take care of yourself, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
then from there, it's like, okay, let's understand. Number one, first step is helplessness. We talk about helplessness, that feeling that you have when you get this diagnosis and there's nothing you can do but love
Right.
on your loved one
Right.
and to take care of them. And sometimes
Yes.
because we can't change the trajectory of the prognosis or the diagnosis, what we tend to do is we give out all trying to make up for that, right? And we're doing that, and we're not even conscious of that. From helplessness, we go to recognition. Recognition that we don't know what we don't know. There's
Mm.
so much we don't know.
Right.
And then from recognition, we go to process. We work through the process of learning all the things you gotta learn about the disease process, the diagnosis, how to best care for your loved one, how to access resources. You got to learn and understand the medical
Yes.
system, whether it's Medicare or Medicaid.
Okay.
Gotta learn all of that, right?
Yes.
What are we eligible for? What services can we access? Is long-term care possible? Do we have long-term care insurance? Can we
Mhm.
get help in the home? That is a huge process we're going
Yes.
through.
Yes.
And then we have to get to the step of acceptance. And from acceptance, we're like, acceptance? Yeah, because we like to live in denial
Yes.
regardless of what we're told, we like to pretend. And I'm a witness, okay?
Hmm.
They told me my mama had Parkinson's. It's like I would not hear those people. Mm-mm.
Right.
I didn't
Hmm.
accept and understand that she really did have Parkinson's until
Yes.
after she passed because I just couldn't and wouldn't hear it. Right?
Process. Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
Process. Exactly. And then surrender. Ultimately, we got to surrender. We are
Yes.
not God. We
Right.
can't control the situation and the circumstances. We
Correct.
have to let go and let God and
Right.
surrender it, right?
Mm.
And
Hmm.
so I don't care what your religious practice or belief or understanding is, if you are taking care of somebody, that is God's work. That
Right.
is God's work that you're
Yes.
doing. So
Yes.
you can either tap into your God or you can continue to do it without him. But he's right there and he's available whether or not you choose to access that. And all of those steps I just mentioned, they are cyclical because you could process and then you right back at helplessness.
Yes.
Okay, it's a process, but when you understand that process, you're able to move through it. You're able to go. you're able to grow through it. And I tell
Right.
people every day that the caregiving journey is happening for you. It's not happening to you. It's happening
For
for
you.
you to change and for you to transform into your best and highest self. That's
Wow.
what caregiving allows you to do.
Wow. I love that. I love that. You said a couple of wonderful things. First of all, acceptance. And then when you
Hmm.
talk, and every day we're having to, every day's a new day. Every day we're having to
Absolutely.
go through the process that you're speaking of. But then when you
Hmm.
speak of at the end of the journey or as we move through the journey, we're becoming more of our higher self, our better self. We're changing
Absolutely.
our patience, our tolerance,
Exactly.
our love is
Exactly.
strength. So it's a
Exactly.
ministry. Really, what you're saying is caregiving is a ministry for even the caregiver
Very much so. Very
themselves.
much so. Yes.
Yes,
Right.
yes, yes,
And
ma'am.
because I talk to people across the full spectrum, right? Some people call it a ministry. Some people call it a purpose. Some people call it a higher calling. Some people call it a duty and a responsibility. You can
Yes,
frame it however you choose to. Choose what serves you best, what's going
yes,
to uplift you, right?
yes, yes,
And I know for you it's a ministry. I know for me it's a ministry. I was like,
yes.
Lord knows this was not my idea. This was not my vision.
Hmm.
But I have had incredible opportunities. I've been able to touch people's lives, not just across the country, but people outside of the country. I did a
Hmm. Hmm.
consultation with a family in Costa Rica
Hmm.
last week, and it's like,
Wow.
man, right? And
Yeah.
so I could not have done that. I would not have done that myself.
Hmm. Hmm.
But God says differently when
Hmm.
you say yes to the assignment. That's another thing we call this caregiving. This
An
caregiving
assignment.
is an assignment. It certainly
It's
is
an
my
assignment. Yes,
right? And
yes.
so, we get an assignment and we can pass it or we fail it. Or we can pass it with flying colors, or we
Hmm.
can just barely pass it.
Right.
And I choose to pass it with flying colors because I don't
Yes, me
like
too.
cheating courses, okay?
No.
I don't care for it, but of course,
Love it.
some of us, and I certainly have been hard headed, and so there are things that I have had to repeat.
Hmm.
I have had to learn again because I didn't get it the first
And
time.
the first time. And
Right.
the other thing I really, in my family with my mother and those who have passed on before, who went through an illness and we had to step up as caregivers, it helped to develop a culture in our family,
Absolutely.
a culture of caring. And
Yes.
then whereas our children will look on to see and will know that this is how this is done. So
Exactly.
when it's our
Yes.
turn, then they
Yes.
know to step up and to do because this is a culture of caring for
Exactly.
our family.
My,
What do you think
you,
about that?
that's beautiful. Oh, that's beautiful, and that is actually what I teach in with organizations and businesses and corporations. My objective is to have the program is called Caree,
Okay.
Caree.
Okay.
Caree is all
Carrie.
about creating a culture of caring within the workforce, within the organization. But you hit the nail on the head because the culture of caring needs to start at home. And what your family did and what my family did was, and from New Orleans people, that's how we roll, right?
Right. Hmm.
We had a culture of caring, right,
Right.
within the family. It was understood. The culture was so rich and so deep that Miss Imelda on the front porch would
Mhm.
go in and cook and make
Yes.
sure, right? Mama had surgery and Miss Imelda was cooking to make sure the red beans and rice and what have you, the whole family was fed,
Yes.
right? It
Yes.
was a
Yes.
community thing because the culture of caring was legit. It was real.
It
It
was
was
real.
authentic. And it's how we rolled as a
Right.
people. And I
Yes.
hope to God we get back to that sooner
We
rather
have
than
to.
later. We have to. We have to.
Yeah.
The cost of caring is so obscene that we have to
We have
get
to.
back to caring so that
Yes.
families show up and do what they are supposed to do. And all family members collectively, everybody can't do the same thing, but
No.
everybody can bring something to the table,
I
right?
love it. I love that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
important. I read something the other day where I can't remember, but it really struck me as a great truth is that without the importance of caregivers, the role of caregivers is like no other role. It's so significant. And so many times we devalue it because they're the silent group. They're the group
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
doing the work, but they get
yeah.
very little or no praise. But this is what I
Hmm.
read, Nadine. Tell me what you think about it. That
Okay.
without caregivers, the healthcare system would be in chaos.
Oh, that's a
Without
fact.
care, that's a fact.
That's a
That's a
fact.
fact. We don't acknowledge it as such. But when I read that, I was like, oh my God, yes,
So caregivers are the backbone of the healthcare industry,
yes,
period. Right?
yes.
It's well over 55 million. I keep saying 60 million because I know that they're under it's under the number is underrepresented. But AARP reported that last year that we had 54 million caregivers in this
Right.
country.
Mhm.
That is absolutely the backbone of the healthcare system. And
Yes.
without those caregivers, and here's another interesting statistic, is that 40% of all caregivers, believe it or not, are male, are men.
Yes. Yes.
40%, right? And you think
40%.
about it, and it's like, huh, well, men are not going to talk about the fact that they're caregiving, that they're taking care of anybody. They're going to do it in silence. They're going to do it in isolation most often. And this is
Correct.
not stereotyping. This is just the reality, right?
Right. Right.
There are absolute exceptions to that rule, and I welcome it. We had a man for the last year and a half, Joe, who showed up every Monday for our caregiver support group. He was taking
Mm-hmm.
care of his dad at home, and he said, "I need support because
Mm-hmm.
this is more than a notion,
Right.
right?" And
Yes.
so yes, we are caregivers are a critical, critical element. And unfortunately, our caregivers are in the same category as our teachers. We don't value our teachers.
No.
We valued
No.
our teachers during COVID, right?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
everybody felt the weight. And I thought that would change things, but we got short-term memory. And so that value that we put on teachers then, of course, now we're back to the same old habits. And
Correct.
so it's the same with our caregivers. We don't value the caregivers in our community, but I say we're here to change that, and
We
Savvy
are.
Caregiver, where we start.
We are. This is a revolution. It's an
Yes.
evolution. I'm excited about doing it. I love what you just mentioned, excuse me, about the men. I counseled with the family yesterday where a husband and a wife, and the husband is the caregiver, even though he
Mhm.
has his own, challenges and, operating with some disabilities, in our savvy workshops, we have men that come in, just to be
Mhm.
enlightened, empowered. They may not have a lot to say, but they're sitting there gleaning because they realize they need the strength of community. We don't have a
Exactly.
lot of time left. This is so good. I can't wait till you get here on the second. But prior to the show, prior to the podcast, you shared with me a story about one of your caregivers that just really touched my heart. I really
Mhm.
want you to share that because I often, as I go about talking with caregivers, self-care is so big. And I love the way you explain that and the way you talk about the self-care portion. Even you heighten it even beyond what we normally, expose it as or talk about it as. But tell the story about your caregiver and, that journey and how you're feeling even today because of,
Absolutely, Cinder.
yeah.
So my why for why I do this work is because it's really personal. I want caregivers to outlive the people they're taking care of.
Yes.
Okay, that's my why for doing this work. And every time I
Oh,
think I might get to a point where okay, my work is done, something happens.
yes.
And last month, we here I live in Colorado, but I host a caregiver support group, and it's a virtual caregiver support group. We've been doing it for almost 5 years. We started it as soon as COVID hit, and we knew we had to connect with caregivers. And so one of our caregivers was just a beautiful lady from New York, and her name is Naima. I know her family does not mind me sharing her name. Name is Naima. Naima was just a light, beautiful, beautiful light. and she was a caregiver, retired nurse, caring for a special needs son who had cerebral palsy and a husband who had just developed dementia. And she was really, as a part of the support group, really learning how to make her self-care a priority, how to say no, how to recognize that you can't pour from an empty cup. And gosh,
Wow.
just about 3 months ago, she went into the hospital, and she was in the hospital for almost a month. And she came out and things were better and she was doing well and she reconnected with the group. And one thing that she shared with us was that she was excited because she was accepting and embracing the idea of being cared for.
Hmm.
That was something to hear, right? And then the
Yes.
next time we saw her, she was back in the hospital having a few tests. And then she went back home. But she shared with us during that conversation that she wasn't sure if she had fully learned the lesson in time. And of course, we said, of course, everything is in perfect order. You have
Yes.
absolutely learned this lesson. And a couple of weeks passed and I didn't hear anything. And I reached out to her daughter because I make sure I get another contact number
Hmm.
for my caregivers now. I reached out to her daughter
Yes.
and learned that she had passed. She had suffered a massive heart attack and she was gone. And
Wow.
so I am still grieving that loss. Our caregiver support community is still grieving that loss. But we know that part of Naima's legacy is that she wants people to learn from her experience.
Yes.
Make yourself a priority sooner rather than later.
Yes.
Turn the corner. Recognize that caring for another is a beautiful thing to do, but self sacrifice and not caring for yourself first and foremost is actually hypocritical.
Wow.
God wants you to take care of you. You have to take care of yourself so that you are equipped to take care of the people that you love.
I love it. I love it. Whew. You always fill
Mhm.
me up. You always fill me
Yeah.
up. You do that.
I always tell you we're a reflection of each other.
We
We
are.
really, iron sharpens iron, and we definitely, from the first time we ever met, it was
Yes.
just this connection and this
Yes.
recognition, this mutual respect. Sister,
Yes.
whatever I can do to support you, I am here for you.
Always.
I
You are.
appreciate all that you do and the impact that you're making on our community.
Thank you so much. I love you. And again, we're going to see you on November the 2nd. I can hardly wait, hardly wait.
I can't
So, is there
wait.
anything? I know we have a few minutes left. Is there anything you want to leave with us, Nadine, before we end this Zoom?
Yeah. And I'm going to talk about this on the second, that the caregiving journey, and if I said it already, I guess this is what needs to be repeated. That caregiving happens for you. Caregiving just doesn't happen to you. It happens for you
For
to
you.
change, for you to evolve and to transform into your highest and your best self. You were good. And I know we all think we good. We already good.
Yeah, we
But
think.
if you were good when you started this journey, if you
Mm,
do this journey the way that God intends you to do this journey with the support, with the resources, with the recognition that we do this in community, we don't do it by ourselves, with the understanding that it takes a village, then this caregiving journey will transform you into your absolute best and
best.
highest self.
Oh my goodness. It's only the beginning. Every day is a
Mhm.
new day. Thank you. I love
Absolutely.
you. We're going to see you
I love you
soon.
more. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. And you'll be able to find this amazing video on all platforms. The Savvy Caregivers, baby boomers, seniors, family members. We want you to come out on November the 2nd to the Savvy Caregivers Senior Super Fest. Huh? You said
I
something to me?
forgot one thing. I forgot
What?
one thing,
Say it.
Linda. Another thing that we're gonna be talking about is the fact that kids are caregivers too. That
Oh,
there
I
are
love that.
children in our world
Oh
that
my
are
goodness.
literally carrying the adult responsibility of caregiving. And we have turned a blind eye to that. And one of my latest missions that God has entrusted me with, okay,
Another
is
mission.
to raise awareness about the issue of children who are caregiving. So that is definitely something we're going to talk about at the conference, and talk about
Absolutely.
how do we support our babies? How do we make sure that they're okay and they get to grow up and
Yes.
be, all that they are meant to be, and not be so saddled and unsupported on a caregiving journey. Okay?
Wow. We're going to talk
Yeah,
about that.
that. Yes.
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 Yes. We want to make sure that some um, caregivers, children who are caregivers, let's get them there at the event as well, because it
Yes.
is a
Yes.
family friendly event. And we're excited
Absolutely.
about what's going to happen. It's going to be magnificent.
It is. It is. I
Awesome.
can't wait.
Thank
Yes.
you. God
Thank
bless
you,
you. You
Cinder.
guys, we'll see you November the 2nd, 10 till 2, 475 Franklin Avenue in Gretna. It's going to be a great day. Love you, Nadine. Love you so
Love you,
much.
Cinder.
Bye
Can't
bye.
wait to see everybody. Bye bye.
Bye.